Right, Sharon, you've sent a whole lot of things. So let's go to this. The first thing is you ask about the flyer. Now this is the shorter transactional, and the flyer is a form of advert. So if you've practiced your advert or the poster, you have practiced for the flyer. The flyer is that piece of paper that is handed out like in a shopping mall or at a robot. So it's a single page, sometimes it can be on the other side, but it's a single page advert for something. So say to yourself, when we teach you advertising, we teach you the AIDA principle. You start by getting the viewer's attention. Then you maintain their interest. You appeal to their desires, and you tell them what action to take. So if you hand somebody a flyer, have a look at the topic. What are you advertising? Is it a new restaurant? Is it extra lessons because of COVID? What is it? Say to yourself, you could have something like, do you like spicy Indian food? Then come to whatever restaurant. Maybe you want to list the main things that people can get, and then you want to give some kind of contact details here. So what's important for a flyer and a poster is layout. And for an advert, any kind of advert, layout. So space it nicely on the page. Remember to use emotive language, punctuation, everything that you have studied for paper 1, you now are going to use for paper 3. Then the next thing you've asked about is the review. Okay. So a review is a piece of journalism. It is written by somebody who is an expert in a particular field. The most important thing about a review is you are giving an opinion, and you obviously need evidence, facts, details that you discuss to support that opinion. A number of teachers say that a review has to have both sides. No, it doesn't. If you loved that restaurant and hated that movie, then you can say so. But you have to have reasons. So I'd like you to tell me which reviews in particular you are having trouble with. So which reviews do you generally get in exams? Film, book, music, and I'll put concert there as well because it's the same thing, or at least it's in the same area. Restaurant. Any kind of writing, any writing. You watch your gaps. So your genre is a review. Let us say it is specifically a book review. Then you need to know, what do we look for in a book review? What is different from a film review or a music review? So you need to know your key features of reviews in general, which is things like you need to be an expert, you're giving an opinion, you're giving evidence. That's general. But then what specifically is required in book or film or music? Your audience is always people who have knowledge. You are not writing for people who don't know what a detective novel is. And you also assuming that they are eager. You know, you're not going to write an opera review for people who don't like opera. Are you with me? You're not going to write a ballet review for people who say, ballet, are you out of your tree? So you're writing for people who know what you're talking about. They are eager, they are enthusiastic about whatever it is, movies, in particular horror movies or whatever, chick flicks, whatever it is, and they are knowledgeable. Then your purpose we've discussed. It's the style that is so tricky in a review. It's a combination of really intelligent writing. So you need the best possible vocabulary. But it's also a piece of journalism, which means it has to have that journalistic flair, which is a kind of liveliness, which is often achieved by a colloquial idiom, a colloquial use of language. So do you see, it's this intellect, reason, intelligence, plus colloquialism, and you never speak down to your audience. It's not easy. It really isn't. Reviews are not easy. It's like writing flyers. If you're going to do it really well, it's actually hard. Nobody writes their own adverts. Not if you are an important company. You get a company to do it for you, and a really well-known one. So these things are not the easiest. I know that very often your teacher is kind and gives you 10 out of 10 for a flyer, a poster, or an advert. I know that. But reviews are a whole lot trickier. So you need to tell me which reviews in particular. I can certainly bring some examples. So that's what you should start to do. You should read lots, and say to yourself, what makes them good, or I'm not so sure, or this is really bad. When you read, remember, you're looking at your gaps. What are we looking for? What is the purpose? Is it doing what it's meant to do? And then you need to write. So it's read, write one. Read, write one. Okay. Then we come to instructions. I'm not entirely sure why you're asking me to help with instructions. I would have thought instructions and directions are kind of fairly evident. Instructions, this is how to make beef stroganoff. So depending on what you're giving instructions for, I like my instructions and my directions numbered. I much prefer numbering to bulleting. So, I don't know, take, 2 medium onions, chop them finely. Directions, these involve going from X to Y. And with directions, they want you to have street names, and they want landmarks. Those are fairly permanent things like a mall or a police station or a fire station. So I'm not sure, Sharon, this is still with you. I'm not quite sure how to write instructions. Logically, they must be clear. They're written in imperatives. The imperative, do this, do that. Peel and dice the tomatoes or whatever. It's written in the imperative. You're giving people instructions. I'm really not sure what the problem is. I need kind of more here, don't quite know what you want me to do. Then we come to narrative or discursive essay? Sharon, I'm still with you. This is your last question. So we're talking here about essay types. And you've said, what did you say? What's the difference? Yeah, what is the difference between a narrative essay and a discursive essay? A narrative essay tells a story. A discursive essay discusses something. Your narrative essay doesn't have to look like a short story. It doesn't have to have your exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution, but usually even an anecdote, a little story about what happened to you, usually has something of that structure. It's a good idea to begin in the middle. So don't start, it was a sunny Saturday morning. Begin in the middle, where things are already happening. Do your little exposition, and then, as you know from your study of a short story, there's some kind of conflict, and you head into the rising action or what happened. A discursive essay is a discussion. So you're giving your opinion, and then you are discussing it. You're giving facts, evidence to support that opinion. So to that extent, it's like the review. Remember, if you don't have facts and evidence, and this has to be up to date, and when I mean up to date, I mean like this morning. It has to be absolutely up to date. If you don't have that knowledge and you can't do that research in the exam, then use your own experience. All right? I was reading an essay earlier today about gender discrimination. So don't write things like, some people think men and women are equal, and some people think men and women aren't equal. You know, we all know that. So when you're looking at your gaps of a discursive essay, what is your purpose? It should be not to bore the reader. So don't tell me, as one essay that I read a few hours ago said, that the world is suffering from a pandemic called COVID. We know that. So don't do that. That's going to make your essay really dull and uninteresting. So when you come to your purpose, what are you sharing with your reader? What are you passionate about? What are you really committed to talking about? And you can use your own experience to do this. So, for example, if we go to gender discrimination, have you had experience of that? Then don't talk about some people in the world. Talk to me about what your experience has been. Where have you been put down because you are whatever gender or something? So you are having that discussion, but it must be interesting, it must be exciting, it must be unique, it must be new. Don't rehash things we already know. That is incredibly dull. Okay, so Sharon, that takes care of that. As I say, please get back to me, send follow-up, let me have a look at it. Right. Then I move to Maudi Pilusa. Your first thing is how to write an essay, which we have to some extent discussed. Then you ask, how do we know whether it's descriptive, discursive, narrative, or reflective?